Joining us is Adam Rizzieri, Chief Marketing Officer, Agency Partner Interactive. Adam, my question for you is, at this point, is this corporate America doing something for publicity and what they feel is good for business, or is this really about a political agenda and they're using their place and their leverage to try to enact it?
Great question, Brian, and great to be with you. You know what? I think it's a little bit of both. So right after Georgia passed SB 202, immediately following that, you had these coalitions of progressive activist groups come together and basically kind of pool their money together to start a massive marketing campaign to get really, really loud and really, really focused on these big CEOs. And so you have these big CEOs, at Delta, Coca-Cola, Home Depot. Obviously, we've heard about the MLB. You just mentioned that one. And they're hearing all this noise from their board members and then, of course, from these activist groups that are buying full-page ads in newspapers and things of that matter. And the messaging coming their way is, hey, guys, we expect some sort of response from you specific to this issue. Now, what these CEOs are not doing is measuring the room in terms of asking their employee base of 50,000 people. In some cases, Delta, these airlines, they have about 50,000 people or so. So asking these employees, what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about these issues? The trouble is a lot of the information going their way is just totally false. Hearing the president and hearing some of these groups refer to these voter reforms as Jim Crow 2.0 is just, frankly, insulting to people that actually lived through Jim Crow. If you look at some of the words from Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, Dr. Alveda King, she actually lived through Jim Crow, and what's going on now has nothing to do with Jim Crow. So it's frankly insulting to a lot of people to see these companies now take positions that are just not based on fact. Now, in terms of the money side of things, there's a lot of money to be had when it comes to sort of subscribing to some of these issues. Consider that in 2020, the BLM movement raised $90 million. You now have BLM's co-founder, Patrisse Cullors, who just bought a $1.4 million home in Topanga Canyon, a majority, actually white neighborhood. And frankly, it's just one of her 4 homes in the area. So, looking at that, but then also recognizing Nike as a company, its stock rose over 18% after the Kaepernick deal. Their value boosted by $26 billion by getting involved in the social justice movement. So I think what we're seeing from a lot of these CEOs now is a combination of things, and it's sort of a coalescing of people who are very out of touch with everyday Americans. Consider that Ken Chenault, the CEO of American Express, he was one of the guys that got together with that group of 120 CEOs on Saturday. This guy's net worth is $110 million. Ed Bastian, the CEO of Delta, he makes $67,000 a day. And you know what? Good for them. But when you kind of look at things for what they are, this group of 120 to 200 CEOs have been getting together, led by a Yale management professor named Jeffrey Sonnenfeld. These guys do not know or understand what everyday Americans are feeling. And the true sad thing here is we're seeing a total departure from really the dreams that Martin Luther King Jr. himself was trying to educate people on, this dream of a colorblind society where we don't live by our differences, but we live by our similarities, our common goals, founded on mutual respect and appreciation for our differences.
Adam, I think you were exceptional the way you just laid that out and tied it together. In fact, speaking of Dr. King and my time in Atlanta, I was born and raised. I got to know multiple members of the King family quite well as I endeavor to learn and then gain perspective on these types of issues, albeit in a time that seemingly is not as charged as the one we're now in. And to your point, every time that you have an organization that is identified by race, like Black Lives Matter, you are going directly against the wishes of Dr. King's dream. Every time that we separate Americans based upon the color of one's skin, we are doing that because his dream was a society in which we judge people based upon the content of character. So taking superficial differences and exploiting them for whatever the particular purpose is, whether it's ratings in news media, whether it's power and influence, as you point out, the BLM founder, These things all are against Dr. King's stream. Also, to the hypocrisy of the president of the United States and anybody else who would incite Jim Crow, or even more insulting to anybody who's really educated, Jim Eagle, as he has been known to do for some odd reason. What he's literally saying is that what's happening today is worse than lynching and segregation. It's worse than lynching and segregation. Somebody should make those people accountable to it, because it's just plain wrong. And it also shows, just as an aside, what hypocrites most that claim to be race leaders today are engaged in. Now, Adam, on the corporate side and from a marketing perspective as well, I have a little bit of insight into this because my father was in corporate America and many moons ago, and was part of an organization that was shaken down by Jesse Jackson. And basically, if we cut to the chase, it's like this. We are going to make a problem for you if you don't give us X, to the Rainbow Push Coalition. And that's the way they went around blackmailing companies to get money to carry on what they did. And what I see BLM is doing is the 2021 version of that type of thing, the Rainbow Push kind of thing, to where basically you get on board with us or we're going to create problems for you. Is that what you're seeing happen from a corporate standpoint? And are you seeing some companies decide that, well, shoot, we're just going to go a step further at this point?
Unfortunately, yes. You're seeing these CEOs, these people that are supposed to be leaders, these people that are supposed to make strong decisions. You're seeing them basically turn into cowards that are now followers, that are not bold enough to make a stand and take strong positions. That being the right position. So you're seeing just a lot of these big companies sort of caving to the mob. And what they're doing, though, is not representative of what you're seeing from small businesses. It's not representative of reality, frankly. What MLB did to move the All-Star game from Atlanta to Denver, I was talking to on another program about this, but they basically just now deprived Atlanta of $100 million of business that would have gone to a consistency of about 30% black-owned businesses, a city that's 51% black, now moving it to Denver. And I love Denver, but I mean, it's 9% black. There are 76% of people in Denver are white. So, in the interest of diversity, what they're doing is totally opposite from what they say they're trying to achieve. So, these companies make these decisions without knowing really the true weight of what those decisions are. And kind of as you see these elites, right? You see this class of elites, these business leaders that, I mean, man, I would love to make 67 grand a day, but you know what? I just don't. That's not the reality of most Americans. These business leaders, these academic elites, and also these bureaucratic elites as well. They are very like-minded. They claim to be nonpartisan, but that's just not the truth. They're making a move here to grab power. They're making a move that is in the interest of their money, their bottom line. What's going to get them paid? What's going to get them more influence over society? And this is a historical moment in our country right now, and so as individuals, as whether we're business owners or not, we have to make decisions about where we spend our money. Typically, a boycott doesn't hurt a big business, right? But when a boycott does come to a place like Atlanta, for example, or another geographic target, the people that are typically hurt are those smaller businesses and the people that are in that ecosystem. So now it's up to small businesses and just individual consumers to come together to say, you know what, as a small business, I'm going to choose who I seek out as a vendor. I'm going to seek out who I go to for, well, shoot, I'll tell you what, United Airlines has a quota now, a race-based quota on pilot hiring.
Pilots, yeah.
2,500 of their 5,000 slots are now restricted from non-white male applicants. So irrespective of flight experience, irrespective of training test scores, whether or not you have a military background and you can do a barrel roll in a 747,
it's absurd.
I care about excellence and safety. I don't want my brain surgeon chosen based on race or identity.
I hear you, Adam.
Person for the job.
Good points, and I appreciate the conversation. Adam Rizzieri, Chief Marketing Officer, Agency Partner Interactive.